what I really feel like talking about is parenting. Parenting is one of my favorite topics to talk about. The Lord just put down my heart to talk more about parenting. All right. So, one of the things that I think is really important with parenting is to have the right mindset, the frame of mind. Like when we know the direction that we're going with in parenting, it is super helpful. And one of my favorite resources to share is actually based and rooted in how children are raised to feel secure in the world. Not about the world, but to feel secure in who they are and feel safe. And from that, this love-based foundation, they're able to thrive and build upon that. And so we want to teach our kids how to be resilient. And one of the things we need to do is establish them and root them in love and in relationship with you, the parent or the caregiver. So with that said, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite resources. And if you've been in this group long enough, you've probably seen this because I talk about it often. I also want to let you guys know, I talk about this in my 5-day workshop. I have a 5-day Unveiling Heirs workshop where we talk about how we can raise emotionally resilient children, but also from a kingdom-minded framework. So we talk about your own self-care, we talk about marriage, we talk about parenting, all kinds of things. And so we do have another workshop coming up October 12th. Let me go and drop that actually in the group as well. All right, I had deleted my history because the cache was too full or something like that. Like it wasn't renewing some of my websites. And so now I have to figure out what are all my passwords again. So let me figure this out. Here we go. Let me copy that and then hop over here. Hey, Jessica, Erin, good to see you guys. Okay, Erin, you're driving. Don't type anymore. Don't type anymore. If you guys are interested in the workshop, our next workshop is coming up October 12th. Let's see, Jessica, what are you saying? You're about to work, you have a work appointment. Yay, good lady. I just love everything that you're doing. You guys keep an eye on Jessica. She's awesome. She actually has a business coaching people in developing a resume. So if you are someone who you're looking for a job or you want to beef up your resume, be on the lookout for what she has coming down the pipeline. She's going to be creating an e-course. So that's going to be fantastic, you guys. She has an anointing, a gift in drawing out the stories of people's careers and the callings that they have. It is awesome. All right, let me pull up this sheet. I don't know where it's at. All right. All right, let's see. Not there. All right. We'll get there. We'll get there. Let's see. There it is. Awesome. Flip the screen around. Okay. This is one benefit that I really like about Zoom is I get to share my screen. Yay. All right. This is how we want to approach all parenting, okay? This is gold. This is amazing gold. If you have adult children, but you know some friends who are still raising children, get them in this group and tag them on this video. They must see this. If they're already in the group, tag them on the video. This is very significant. Every parent must know this. Literally, every parent must know this, okay? So this is based on what's called attachment theory. This is how we feel attached and connected. And you know what? This is also a key to how we can have healthy relationships with friends, with spouses, with dating. You know, if you have a healthy attachment to your primary caregiver in childhood, it'll be amazingly easier for you to navigate relationships in the dating world, in marriage, in friendships. And when to remove yourself from those situations because they're not healthy. But the cool thing is if you didn't have the benefit of having a healthy relationship with your parent growing up, there is such thing as called an earned secure attachment. So you can actually go through inner healing in such a way where you are whole and you are not looking for the wrong relationships and you don't put up with the same amount of junk that you maybe would if you hadn't taken care of your heart and your healing. And so all that to say, okay, I'm going to pull this up as well on my phone because now that I'm using my screen, I can't see where you guys are at. Let's see, here we go. Refresh. All right, boom, there it is. Maybe. Okay, now I can monitor your comments. Awesome. All right, so the circle of security. So even though you see little kids here, and imagine this is also applicable for teens, just the way you interact with them and what they do at different stages might be different, obviously. So the way you look at this chart is you're going to look at it from the hands. It's going to go up and over, down and back. And there are some things I actually add to this training that this organization, which is really fantastic that they teach, but I add a little bit more to it so you get that kingdom flavor, that we're approaching it through the lens of the kingdom of heaven. You guys as parents, or if you're a grandparent raising children, you are the secure base, your home base. All right, your home base, and your role is to be a secure base, and to send your kids out for exploration, training them up how to be responsible adults, citizens who contribute to society, who partner with the Lord in making earth more like heaven. And sometimes when they have difficulties, you need to welcome them back to you and be a safe haven. Give them new resources, renew their mindset, because sometimes the world will teach them something otherwise. And so these hands are like the potter's clay. You're shaping and forming these children, training them up in the way they should go with the gift and talents and personality that God put in them. That makes them uniquely them. So on this top part, when it comes to supporting exploration, we want to make sure that we support our children's exploration in a way that makes sense. We don't want to be neglectful where we just say, hey, go hang out with whoever you want. Just make sure that you come back before the street lamps come on. I like to laugh at that one because that was kind of our parenting whenever I grew up. And so we recognize there's a lot more things to the world than, that we can't just be letting our kids do whatever without appropriate supervision. And so here they go. We support their exploration, but we also don't want to be a helicopter parent where we don't allow them to do anything because we're afraid they're going to, get their knees scraped or something. I don't know. It's probably a bad analogy, but making sure that we have an appropriate level of supervision, but we're also supporting exploration. So when we get babies, what do? We childproof stuff, but we don't tell them, don't touch that, don't touch that. We allow them to. We allow them to open up the kitchen cabinet and play with pots and pans. And if they get dirty, that's fine. We'll just wash them again. I remember going through stores with my kids, and I don't mind that their hands are touching all the clothes on the rack. Now during COVID, maybe we don't do that, but they're feeling textures. Whenever your kids activate their senses, their brains are actually boosting, and we want our kids to have a healthy brain. And so they need to see things and hear things and smell things and touch things. They need to explore in their environment under a safe space. And while they're doing that, here's what they need. They don't want neglectful supervision. They want you to watch over them when they're playing soccer. Like, you got it. When they're hitting their first home run, you're celebrating with them. When they need some help to climb a tree, you're there to help them to make sure they know how to do it safely. And then just enjoy life with them. So this is really key on making sure that your kids are thriving and you're supporting them learning new skills. When they turn 16 or they turn 15, you're teaching them how to drive a car. You're supporting them to make the milestones they need to be making at their developmental stage in life. Sometimes things happen and they come back to you. And at this point, they still need you. And in this point, like, let's say, let's pretend this kid, he fell down the tree, came off the tree, hurt himself, and now he's crying. We don't want to tell our kids, get over it, suck it up. Now, sometimes we do say that, but it's not because we are supposed to say that. So what we want to do is help our kids when they have failures, when they have friends who say, I don't want to play with you anymore, when they didn't make the volleyball team, when they're having rejection, when they're feeling down, when they're anxious because they're afraid of getting sick because they have an underlying health concern, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and now your teen's super anxious about stuff. When they're worried that they're not good enough in school and they feel like they're failing at everything because they have a learning disability, guess what? Your kids need you. When they're struggling, they might not literally come to you. You might notice they're struggling. Maybe they're throwing more fits. Maybe they're having anger outbursts. Maybe they're hurting themselves. Maybe they're withdrawn and they no longer do the things that they used to enjoy doing. And now they keep to themselves too much. That is a sign that they need you. And so what they need from you is to protect them. Make sure that you are supervising your children. Too many young children have access to things they should not have, that they're getting overexposed to information. And so we need to make sure that we don't let them watch just anything. We have to, as guardians, we have to guard their heart, be careful what they watch, the apps they download, the people they're communicating with, protect them. And when they're struggling, comfort them. Sometimes we have to step in and protect them, but you don't want to overprotect where they tell you that someone was mean to them and you're like, who is that little 6-year-old? Let me know, where are they at? I'm going to talk to them. No, we don't do it that way. But there are times we might need to step in, like, oh, okay, that was not okay that grown up said that. Let me go take care of this. So you try to equip your kids enough to send them back where they can take care of themselves. But there are some situations as an adult that you have to step in. And so you're going to protect them, comfort them, still delight in them. Sometimes it is more of a struggle for some parents on one part of this cycle than the other. For me personally, sometimes being that safe haven is sometimes can be a little challenging, because when kids are struggling, their emotions come out. And as parents, we can get triggered by their emotions. You know it? So one of my triggers, my buttons used to be like, well, sometimes it still is whining. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can tolerate it for a certain point, and then I have a hard time managing my own feelings. And I'm like, oh, okay, try that again, not with the whining, And so sometimes kids don't know how to manage their emotions enough to make it packaged nice and pretty for us. Like, rarely do you find a kid who's like, you know what, mom, I was really struggling today. I felt some rejection, abandonment. Whenever my friends didn't let me play basketball with them. And so I didn't get my feelings out the right way. So I could really use your help with this, because now I'm starting to feel insecure about who I am in third grade. And it's like, no, it doesn't really work that way. Kids actually tell you through a lot of other ways. They might be irritable. They might be, defiant towards you. And a lot of times, what we think is their bad attitude, manipulation, trying to get attention. It's actually their way of saying, this feeling that I have inside, mom and dad, or grandparent who's raising me, or whoever, they're saying this feeling that I have inside is too big for me and I don't know how to handle it. And that's why they're getting their feelings out the wrong way, because guess what? It's hard to deal with feelings. Imagine this. For those of you that are parents watching this, hey, Jennifer, how are you? For those of you that are watching this, think about it. I like to say it this way. If it takes at least 7 years for some children, maybe more or less, to learn how to wipe their own bottoms and keep their underwear clean, you know what I'm saying? I know it sounds disgusting, but you parents know what I'm talking about. But if it takes that long for them to figure out how to do something more simple as that, how much more complicated do you think it is for them to figure out emotions? And so this is a difficult thing that we're even learning as adults still. Like, think about the relationships, the friendships that you have, and the insecurities that come up there, or job interviews, or um, marriage. There's so many different things where your feelings are coming up and the other person's feelings coming up, and we don't really always manage it well. And so that happens. So make sure that as a parent, you're bigger, stronger, wiser than your kids, and you learn how to manage your own emotions so that while your kid is getting triggered, your focus is not being triggered. That you manage yourself well enough that you can create space for your kids to have a full range of emotion, but you still protect them, comfort them, still delight in them. They need to know that they're not rejected when they have fits, and organize their feelings. This is actually how, in scripture it says to renew your mind, take every thought captive, make it obedient to Christ. And so our children renew their minds in the relationship with you, in the context of their connection with you. So, how do we shape their mindsets? Well, it's how we send them out. There's an underlying communication that we say when we send our kids out to do certain things, and also how we receive them when they're coming back. Not necessarily physically coming back, as I was saying earlier, but when they're struggling, how do we respond to them when they struggle? You want to say to your kids what you want them to say to themselves. So, if my child is struggling riding a bicycle, going uphill because they have low muscle tone, they're throwing a bike down, getting upset, I don't want to say, get over it, suck it up. I might in the moment because I'm having a hard time dealing with my own feelings while my child's dealing with their feelings. But that's a me issue, right? That's something I need to work on. So what I want to do instead is say, you know what? Sometimes it's hard. You know what? I can see why you're frustrated. Sometimes it's hard going uphill, and it's especially harder for you. And so, you know what? Here's what you can do about it. You can take a break, try again, or ask for help. Which one do you choose? And so now I'm organizing their feelings. I'm validating, hey, I get it. That's a really hard thing to do. I don't know if you know this, but it's really hard to go uphill. you know, or not everything comes easy in life. I know it's difficult. So here's what we do when we have problems. You can try again, ask for help, or take a break, and so you give them options. So it's like, okay. And then when they hear this repetition again, again, every time they have a problem, you give them these options. You're sending them back out. So this should be written on here. I would write it on here. It would say, send them back out with a new option. So that's part of organizing their feelings too. And so I give some different stories. Here's one example. Jennifer says, hey, kids' outbursts are sometimes because their feelings are too big for them to handle. Yes, it is so true. And then sometimes their feelings are so big, it's too big for us to handle because they're like, I just need peace. There are many moments where I would lose my cool as a mom because I didn't have capacity to contain my feelings and their feelings. And so as parents, we have to really work on ourselves. And it's like, oh my gosh, kid. And so there's times where my kids have had struggles because of, maybe it's let's take this one. Like, it's morning. I don't want to get up. I'm tired, mom. Maybe they had a hard time sleeping at night. Maybe they woke up because of a nightmare. So when it's time to get ready, like we're on the top part where it's time to like, okay, let's go, guys. We're going to get dressed for school. And you're like, yay. And then they're like struggling. So they're like, oh, dude, tired, or I don't want to go to school, back away. Whatever they're going through. We don't have to take it like you're being disrespectful. That's when we become a little bit too egocentric as parents, where we make every emotional meltdown our kids have and translate it in our minds as, therefore you're disrespectful, you're defiant, you're oppositional, you're just being bad. No, it could be that. Yeah, I mean, yes, it's disrespectful, but it's not like they're intentionally trying to be mean to you. Not everything's about you, mom and dads, grandparents. Not everything's about you. Our kids have big feelings and they don't know how to get them out the right way all the time. And so I am not saying coddle your children. I'm not saying like, allow them to treat you any kind of way that they want. No, you need to come down on some of those bad attitudes. But I'm challenging the perspective that it's not always about disrespect. Yes, it doesn't come out very good, but it could be that they have a hard time with their feelings. Feelings are big. They're really big. And I remember when I was a kid, I was the youngest of 4 kids, and my brother, who is closest to me in age, Michael, he would often help me with my homework. I guess my dad would put him up to it, like, hey, help your sister, because he would be doing something else maybe, or I don't know how it ended up working out that way. But I remember my brother helping me with math. And there were some things about math I was so like, I was just struggling with. I was like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. And so what came easy to him was not so easy to me. And so he's trying to explain it to me. He's 2 years older than I am. So he's explaining to me, but it didn't make sense to me. And so I would get frustrated. And I'm like, this is stupid. Like, you're not good at teaching this. Like, I would totally take it out of my brother being a jerk. Okay. I was being a jerk. And he's like, fine, then I don't want to help you. I'm just trying to help you. And I've done that even to my husband. Fast forward as an adult. Let's see, this is pre-children. This was probably 12, 13 years ago. We've been married 16 years now. So it might've been longer than that. Maybe it was 15 years ago. But I remember he was trying to teach me golf. And I was a soccer player. I didn't do golf, but I wanted to learn golf. So maybe this was during our dating years. But I remember him trying to teach me. We were at the driving range and he was trying to show me how to swing. And I would be like, totally like whiffing the ball or topping it or whatever. And I remember having a hard time. And I was like the Happy Gilmore of ladies golf. I was so frustrated and he was so embarrassed by me. But this competitive thing in me, that because I would always do sports my whole life, I was like, this should come easy to me. Everything should be easy to me, right? Yeah, right. And so I had unrealistic expectations of myself and of my, I think then boyfriend. I don't think we're married yet. And so I was swinging, and every time he would try to coach me, and he's so patient. I would be so mad. I would take it out on him. I was like, this is stupid. Like, you're a terrible coach. It's sad to admit, but it's true. And so I just couldn't handle it. And so he was so patient and sweet, but he didn't need to take a beating. Now think about it. Now think about our kids. Like, they're going to find ways to blame you or whatever, perhaps, or blame themselves because they're struggling. They're just frustrated. And so they don't know how to, like, what they're really trying to say is, this feeling I have inside is too big. It's too big for me to handle. And so it comes out all the wrong way. But then we get insecure as parents and we take it personal. we're like, don't you talk to me like that, instead of seeing it for what it is. And it's not about like, so, there comes a time where you do need to correct your kids like, no, ma'am, or no, sir, you do not talk to me like that. I know you're frustrated, but we're not going to talk to parents that way. Let's go do this instead. And then you help them get the feelings out the right way. And that's what the focus is when they're struggling, is to focus on how can I help my kid with the coping skills. And it doesn't need to be talk based. Well, let's just take 10 deep breaths. Sometimes that works. Sometimes like the frustration's too big, like they can't even do that. So sometimes they might need you to just, hey, let's go for a walk. Hey, help me out here in the backyard. Let's go do this for a minute, or whatever it looks like in the moment is going to change time each time, perhaps because what works one moment may not work another. And so that's where it feels like super crazy, because we want like a one solution fix every single time, but it doesn't work. It depends on where the kid's at. I remember one of my kiddos, she would get so frustrated. Sometimes I would name the feeling because I wanted to teach my children what feelings are and what they're feeling in the moment, and to let them also know that I see them. I see you in your pain. And so what I would say sometimes, like, I know you're really tired, and I would just leave it like that. Hey, I know you're really tired. You know what? Let's just go ahead and do this, and sometimes I would get the response when they were toddlers, I'm not tired. And it's like, or I'm not grumpy. I would say something like, I know you're really tired. Sometimes we get grumpy when we're tired. So when we go home, we're going to snuggle, and it would be on the car ride home after picking them up from a long day at daycare. And they're like, I'm not grumpy. I'm not tired. And it's clear. I don't have to convince them that they're grumpy because they're tired, And so I don't want to take the bait for the power struggle. So what I would do is I would just be silent, and I'd say, okay, but I don't need to prove to them anything. But sometimes we try to convince our kids stuff. But when they're having a meltdown, the key there is just talk long enough for your kid to understand what you're saying, but not long enough for agreement, because then we get into a power struggle, and then we're like trying to prove our point. And now as parents, we are struggling with the need to be right. We don't want all of that. We don't need all of that. Neither do they. So don't try to be logical with someone who is currently illogical. When the emotions are really high, the logical part of the brain has kind of gone offline because of stress hormone called cortisol. It's hijacking the higher functioning, the pilot of the brain, And so now they're like operating at the base of the brain, which is the fight or flight, kind of response system. It's a stress system. And so especially when the emotions are really big. Now, you don't just ignore it, because you can't ignore bad behavior, because otherwise your kids will never learn good behavior. So a lot of advice is circling around about how you just ignore bad behavior. No, you actually can't just ignore bad behavior. Sometimes we ignore bad behavior because we need a break, because we will take a bait. And but for the most part, you want to try not to ignore bad behavior. I actually learned that in so much training I had gone through on learning how to work with children to develop coping skills. I paid for really like so much training in this, you guys, but it's so powerful. And the benefit of me sewing into my own training and understanding on treating these things is also to the benefit not only for my own family, but also for the families that I work with. This stuff works, you guys. So I've done this again and again and again with my own children. It got to the point where I remember like my youngest as a toddler, like how she would argue, for example, about like, I'm not grumpy, I'm not tired. And as we practice this, eventually she would turn like 3 and 4. And I would say the same thing I always said. I'd be like, I know you're really tired, sweetheart. Sometimes we don't feel good, or sometimes we get grumpy when we're tired. Do you need a hug? And she'd be like, yes. And she would walk over to me and bury her head in my side and just asking for a hug, or she'll eventually initiate saying, Mommy, I think I'm just really tired. So she would actually start vocalizing how she felt. Imagine that at 3 and age 4. Why did that work? Because we did this repetition again and again. Even if you have older kids, if you have a 14-year-old or whatever, like this still works. Now, how you communicate with them might look differently, obviously, but it's still similar. And so just know that you're going to be saying these again. And if you feel like you said it 1,000 times, it's because you have. This is the way the brain is wired, is through repetition, which is why as parents, we have to have the right understanding of our children. Sometimes as parents, we will say things like, they should know this by now. And they probably do know it logically, but guess what? That logic part of their brain went offline. So and sometimes what we know to do and how we're able to do those things are two different things. I know I should drink water, half of my weight in ounces every single day, at least, right? I know that, but it's hard for me to do that, right? Well, that's just a basic behavioral thing. For children right now, we're talking about their emotions. When their emotions are really big, like they might know what they should do, but what I should do, what I'm able to do, are sometimes two very different things. And so we don't want to just be assessing our children based on their behaviors. We want to assess how's their heart. Do they have the skills? Well, they only develop coping skills through your interaction with them. Literally, you're actually practicing with them how to handle the feelings. So while they're having the fit, while they're having the tantrum, while they're having that withdrawn behavior, you're just creating space. Maybe you're just not even saying anything, but you're just being there with them. Hey, I'm right here. I'm so sorry you're having a hard time. I'll be right here when you're ready to talk. And you just hang out. Maybe you're reading a book or you're just hanging out, just being prepared just to be there for them. And so you're demonstrating, I'm here for you no matter what. I'm here for you. And sometimes kids might even be mad at you, like, get away, or whatever they say, and so you could just navigate that case by case, situation by situation. But this is what it looks like, is to help our kids develop healthy coping skills. And so if you guys have any questions, you could post it in the comments. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our talk today. This was just really important one that I wanted to share with you guys, because this is the key. This is the secret sauce on developing children's coping skills. It's actually co-regulation, that children learn how to manage their emotions. If you need any help with this at all, I do want to invite you. I do have a 5-day workshop coming up October 12th. You're welcome to join me there. We're actually talking about all things how to raise a healthy Christian home. We're going to talk about your own self-care as a parent. We're going to talk about marriage and how to have unity there. So many wonderful couples are actually having so much fights because they can't get on the same page with parenting. That's almost every single household, by the way. Okay, so you're not alone in that. And we will talk about how to address those things as well. We're talking about parenting and how to just be equipped, just filled with the Holy Spirit. So it is very much a spirit-led family workshop. And so if you're interested in that, I did post the link in the comment section, or if you want, you could just DM me, and we can talk more then. All right, you guys, have an amazing day. I'll see you next week. Bye.